is Annie of ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Thank you so much for joining us today for Live with Annie. As usual, we've started the stream a bit early. This helps us get everything set up and broadcasting properly to our various platforms. You can find a countdown clock on the screen showing how long it will be until we actually go live. While you wait, please connect with us and other viewers in the chat. Let us know where you are from and whether you're a new or longtime viewer. We'll see you live soon. Thanks again for joining us for Live with Annie. We are so happy to have you with us today. While you wait for the program to start, we hope you'll enjoy the content playing on screen. There's so much inspiration, so take a moment to tell us what you love in the chat. Don't forget there is a countdown clock on the screen so you know how long until we go live. going live with this week's episode shortly. There is a countdown clock on the screen showing how much time is left. You've got just enough time to grab some water or a beverage of your choice and a snack, and to connect with us in the chat. We'd love to hear what you've been working on this week. It's Annie, back to remind you that we'll be starting this week's live very shortly. We've got a really fun episode planned for today, and we'll see you soon. Hi, I'm Annie of ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 33 of season 4 of Live with Annie. Today we are really excited to chat with Seth Apter, a mixed media artist and fabric designer for FreeSpirit Fabrics. We have had so much fun working with Seth's fabrics, and I can't wait to learn more about him and his process and show you what we've made. If you enjoy these episodes, please take a minute to follow us wherever you are watching. And if you know someone else who you think might enjoy the info that we share, we would really love it if you'd tell them about Live with Annie. The easiest way to do that is to just tag them while you're watching. That will take them directly to the episode so they can watch it too. Also, we love reading your comments, so please be sure to interact with us throughout this presentation. We want to know what you think, and we love learning from you too. Be sure to add any questions you might have in the comments or chat, and we will do our best to answer them before we close. So last week we had a delightful visit with Laura Muir of the Create Joy Project. We talked about Laura's new line Floribunda for motif fabrics, and Laura shared her inspiration and process. We also showed off a number of projects we made using her beautiful line. If you missed that episode or want to watch it again, remember that you can find all the previous 172 episodes of Live with Annie on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, or at ByAnnie.com. And we've put up all the links to make them easy for you to find. So as I said, today we are visiting with the multi-talented Seth Apter, a new designer for FreeSpirit Fabrics. Seth is a popular mixed media artist and is known for his unique artistic style that blends textures, colors, and motifs in truly inspiring ways. Welcome, Seth.
Hey, Annie. Great to see you here today.
It is great to see you too. And I would love to start our episode today by learning a little bit about Seth Apter, the person. Can you tell us a bit about your background, where you live, and how you came to be a mixed media artist?
Sure, I'd love to. First of all, just thanks so much for inviting me here. Really happy to be here to be able to share this new collection. I am a mixed media artist and I live in New York City, and I'm sitting right now in my studio, which is also my home. And I have been an artist for a number of years, but it was not my original profession. Initially, I was a psychologist, and in fact, earlier in my life, really had no ability, skill, interest in making art, but I've always been an art lover. So through twists and turns, I ended up where I am today. I am all about mixed media, which basically for me means anything goes. And I love the freedom that that provides when I create. When I'm working, I kind of mix up my time between a number of different things. So primarily, I make art and I sell my work and exhibit my work, but also I spend a lot of time traveling and teaching. I also teach online, and I design a number of products, both mixed media and other types of products. And my newest line of products is fabric with FreeSpirit Fabrics. One of the things I get asked a lot about as a mixed media artist is where I get my inspiration from. And honestly, my inspiration tends to be from New York City. So I spend a lot of time outdoors. And you can see right here, that's the view from my studio. So it's pretty exciting to be able to look out when I'm creating. I get distracted sometimes. But what you'll notice if you know my work is that my work is informed a lot by New York. So those tall buildings, those windows, those squares, the grids of New York City show up all the time in my work. And behind me, and in the photo that we had seen right before this, you saw my inspiration wall. And this kind of sums me up. I am all about more is more. And I do believe that layers, colors, textures, dimension, really, really important in my work. And you can even see when you look at the wall, the gridded nature of it. Again, inspiration from New York City.
Wow, that is so fascinating. I really loved learning that you started out as a psychologist and transitioned to an artist. That knowing that you were a psychologist kind of helps explain a lot of the affirmations and words that are included
Mm.
on your fabrics. That makes those make a lot of sense. I am really curious though, how do you go from a career as a psychologist to being an artist? Can you share a little bit about how that came to be?
Sure. I love to tell this story because it's an example of a moment in time that completely changed my life. So, as I said earlier, I was never a maker when I was younger, but I was an art lover being in New York. The galleries, the museums, and just everything around you. It's like one big art scene. So when I traveled in the past and currently, I used to always try to go to the galleries and the museums from wherever I visited. So one year was the year 2000. I was traveling in the Pacific Northwest and I was in Vancouver in Canada. And I was walking down the street and saw this gallery that just immediately caught my eye. It felt like it could have been in New York City. And I was really intrigued, and I went inside and just immediately fell in love with the art that was there. It was abstract, it was textural, it was just so interesting to me. And I spoke with the woman who was working there and asked her if she could tell me a little bit about the artist. And it turns out the woman there, her name is Patricia Larson, she was the gallery owner and also the artist. So we spent a couple hours actually just talking, and she was telling me about her work and really just fell in love with what she had created. In New York City, especially at that time, I was a little intimidated by the galleries there, so it was rare that I had an opportunity to sit and talk with an artist. So I found it really fascinating. I bought a couple pieces. I went home, got back to my life full time as a psychologist, thought that was the end of it until I received a postcard in the mail from Patricia. She had created a handmade postcard and sent it on to me, thanking me for buying the work and asking me how I liked living with it. And I have to say, I was incredibly touched that somebody took the time to do that, and also kind of a little excited that she sent me this little piece of art. So I decided that I needed to thank her in kind, and I would make a postcard and I would mail it back to her. And honestly, that was the first thing I had made since I was in grade school. So I basically made this postcard, wrote a little note in the back, and I mailed it back to her. Again, got back to life, thought that was the end of it. Until a few weeks later, I got something else in the mail from Patricia. And it was this really special little piece. It was a book page torn out of a book with some paint on it. And my first thought was, wow, this is art. This is so amazing. It's just coming to me. And my second thought was, uh-oh, like, what do I do now? Because I felt like I had to send her art. So I bought a little kid's basically watercolor set, and I pulled a page out of a book, kind of copied her and mailed it off to her. And this went on and on and on and on. I kid you not, for 4 or 5 years. I have stacks and stacks and stacks of letters and postcards and art pieces that Patricia mailed to me. And what had happened as a result of that, unbeknownst to me, was I got pulled into the world of art and creating. Initially, it was just fun and a hobby and an escape from the kind of work that I did. But ultimately, it became more and more important to me. And Patricia was basically my guide, my muse, my teacher. And every time I got something in the mail from her, it was a lesson. And this went on until the time I decided to get a little bit more serious. I started a blog and started to spend more time making art and started to transition away from psychology, make art a little bit more important in terms of how I spent my days. And at some point, I just decided, you know what, I think I'm ready for my second career. I'm ready to shift the direction. And I took the leap and made a decision to try to make a go of it, and started to do it part-time and then full-time, and retired as a psychologist in 2018. And I am now a full-time, very happy working artist, somehow making it in New York City.
Wow, that is such a great story. And what an amazing person Patricia is to take that time to nurture you and teach you and inspire you and give you like a whole new life. I just think that is just an absolutely incredible story, and something that all of us should take to heart and think about in terms of working with other people and having relationships with them too. So thank you so much for sharing that story, and to be able to make a go of it as an artist in New York City. I mean, that's impressive, to be able to move away from psychology and be able to do that. So congratulations to you. I have to
Thank
say
you so
that I
much.
have always really loved mixed media art too, and everything you described is something that I would have probably loved walking in that gallery too. But I've really never done very much of it. I've tried a few times to do it, and what I end up with is all my colors mixed together and just big blobs of brown on the paper. So can you share a little bit about how the process works and how you avoid those kinds of problems?
Sure. Well, probably the easiest thing is just to fall in love with brown or mud, and then it's
Then you're
okay.
set.
Um, exactly. But for me, it is all about the layers. And mixed media, to me, it's very hard to describe when people ask what is mixed media. And my first answer is not very helpful, but it is freedom. Because with mixed media, you're allowed to do anything you want, use any materials, go in any direction you want, and it is okay. For me, it is about creating layers, and there's really no way to shortchange making layers. You just have to start and build and build and build and build and keep building. And you need to take risks and push yourself. I know that sometimes people will, for example, use acrylic paint, they put 2 or 3 layers on, and they like what they have, and they're hesitant to go forward because they think they may ruin it. And mixed media allows you to push yourself because the expectation in mixed media is that you're going to cover what you've already created. That it's very important, and a lesson I've learned, not to get attached to any one layer. If I fall in love with it, I better take a picture because it's going to disappear and I'm never going to see it again. And if I hate it, and that happens all the time, it's not about getting frustrated. It's just about recognizing that I'm not finished yet, and there's no reason why any layer along the way needs to even look good. And because I know I'm going to create another layer, it's okay. And for me, the mantra that I use for mixed media is you're always only one layer away from magic. Because I feel like, and I think we've all been there in any form of art, you put one thing down and lo and behold, you have magic. I have to be honest and say sometimes you're also one layer away from uh-oh, because we've all been there where you put one thing down and it doesn't look so good. But remember, you're always, again, one layer away from magic. So for me, it's just about building those layers. You let the layers dry in between. You don't mix too many colors at once. And you just lean into the supplies you're using. For me, I just let the layer tell me what it needs. If it's too dark, I do something light. If it's too muted, I do something bright. I just listen to the layers, and really, in some ways, the piece is guided by the layers, not by me. And the last thing about mixed media that I think for me makes it very easy, in a manner of speaking, is that I never, ever, ever know what I'm going to make. In this photo here, this is a book. I actually did this online in a class, so the people who took the class saw this these pages unfold. But you just let it go. If you don't know where you're going, you can't be disappointed in where you end up because it doesn't look like what you hoped. And now that's a little bit different than, say, quilting or following a pattern to make a bag, because you usually have an idea where you're headed. So it's a very different world, but one that works well for me.
Yeah, that is really good, some good information. And I'm assuming that as you're making those layers, some of it is paint, some of it is other papers, some of it is other materials like maybe yarn or thread or fabric. Is that kind of how it works? It's I mean, do you add things like metal and things like that in there too?
All of the above. I mean, if you look at most of the pieces I make, there's always paint. I usually use acrylic paint and lots of inks, wet inks from the bottle, and then handmade marks. I rubber stamp, I add stencils, I always add collage, but the collage could be paper, it could be fabric, it could be metal. I find a lot of metal on the streets of New York. I'm a big
Okay.
scavenger and pick
Uh-huh.
things up. And I am and have always been a huge lover of hand stitching. So in all my work, you see hand stitching. I love the texture that it gives, the color, the dimension. I feel like hand stitching is almost like mark making. You're just not using a pencil, you're using stitching.
Ah.
So anything goes,
Oh, that
complete and
sounds like
utter
so
freedom.
much fun. I want to go make some layers. So I think that
We should.
I think quilters and bag makers tend to be creative and they're usually interested in all kinds of art. So I bet a lot of us would really enjoy playing with these techniques. I know you teach in New York City, and I know you're going to be at Artistic Artifacts in Virginia this month. How can people connect with you and maybe take a class with you? I heard you say earlier you did one on Zoom. So do you have a website that
Sure.
links to those?
Yeah, so if you remember or look up my name, Seth Apter, and you just go to SethApter.com, that website will take you everywhere. So you'll be able to go to my socials And if you look at the top of the page in the banner, you'll see that there is a link to live events, and there's also a link to online events. So you can see the online classes I teach, both live and recorded, as well as where I'm going to be for either a class or a workshop, or in the case of the fabric, I'm going to be doing some meet and greets and trunk shows as well. But that's the best place to start, and really the best place to see what's happening with me in the fabric and in the mixed media world.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to definitely check some of those out. My sister and my grandson do sleepovers with me every Friday night, and usually Saturday morning is our time for doing art and doing things like that. And I think this could be really fun for us to do together. So thank you for sharing that
I
information.
love that.
Yeah. So we've talked about your mixed media art that you've done with watercolor and paper and things. How did you come to translate those designs into fabric? Will you tell us a little bit about your journey into fabric design with FreeSpirit?
Sure. Exciting. It's exciting. It's relatively new for me. I have my second collection literally releasing in stores this week. I have been a designer for quite a number of years before I went full time, but my designs and my design work have always been with more mixed media products. So I have lines of paint and ink, stencils and stamps, things like that. But I've always worked with fabric. Now, know that I work small because I live in a little small place in New York City. So my idea of working with fabric is a little square like that size. And I have loved fabric and have always felt that the designs that I do for my art would lend themselves well to a fabric design. But it wasn't really something that I leaned into because I was so focused on the mixed media side of things. And one day, I have to say, just being extremely fortunate, I got an email that probably, every artist, every designer would love to get. And that was an inquiry from a contact at Free Spirit asking me if I had thought about designing fabric and would I be interested in talking with them about that. So after I kind of pulled myself off the ceiling, because you can imagine how amazing that was to receive, I connected with them and emailed back. And my first line was, amazing, thank you. My second line was, you do know who I am. I don't quilt. So I just wanted to be very transparent and open about that. And they emailed back and said, we know, but we love your designs. We think they would lend themselves really, really well to our company and to quilt makers. And that's how it began. And I have two people that I work with. It's a very, very collaborative effort. And all the designs that I make are my original art. Some of them are artworks that I've already made, not specifically for fabric, and some of them are designs for the fabric lines in particular. But the collaboration of it is what's really important to me. And if you think about my experience with Patricia, she and I connected over art. I always made art in response to what she sent me initially. Art for me has always been collaborative and community-based. So being able to work with Free Spirit, first of all, such a phenomenal company. I feel like I am working alongside the most amazing designers, but also they work with me in such a collaborative way and have really helped me from before my first collection to between my first and second collection to really understand the importance of leaning into not only mixed media, but what these fabrics would be like for a quilter and for a pattern maker and decor, clothing. I'm for it all. It's all for everybody and anybody who wants to use it.
Oh, that's really fascinating, and I have to say I'm really glad that Free Spirit found you because we've really loved working with your fabric. So, how does your background in mixed media influence your approach to designing fabric?
Well, initially, I didn't really know how it would be reproduced. And when I say that, I don't mean from a technical standpoint. I just wasn't sure how my designs would translate. They are very detailed, they are very layered. There is a lot of different colors because I use an endless array of materials. And so working with Free Spirit, I came to realize after discussions that a decision was made to create these digitally so that we would be able to have a better chance of recreating the depth and dimension. And I think they have done an incredible job with that. I remember when I saw the first strike-offs of my art into fabric, I just was in awe of how well they captured the details and really the emphasis of what I wanted to get across in the fabric. One of the things I learned pretty quickly is that a lot of the aspects to, say, quilt making that quilters think about, they're identical to the aspects of art that a mixed media artist thinks about. They think about things like color, they think about contrast, they think about scale, all these things that I had not realized initially were so important for fabric, I had already understood to be important for the mixed media. So it helped me make that transition. And basically the way it's worked with them, it's kind of a fascinating process, is knowing that there's a collection coming, I begin to get to work and I just create designs. I also have a sense of perhaps where I want to go with the collection, and I will pull art that I've made in the past that fit that. And then I make a lot. And it, some of it's finished, but a lot of it is just work that I make in a journal and I pull out. And then we work together. I literally, through Zoom, at least initially, I just say, here, I got this piece. And they're like, yeah, that looks great. Put it in that pile. I got this piece. I don't think so. Put it in that pile. Maybe put it in that pile. And we just begin to create the collection collaboratively together. And as we begin to get more and more artwork, it becomes very, very clear. And we get a precise notion of what direction we want to go. And we go from there.
That is really fascinating. So do you usually, the colors that you have in a piece, do they stay that way, or do you sometimes adjust colors digitally as you go?
Well, I love that question. I think there's some images that we're going to show at some point that kind of give a guide to that.
We can talk about that. Okay.
Yeah, but for me, it's the colors are coming from me. I hope this makes sense. Like, it's so important to me, and I think it's important to any designer to be very authentic to yourself. So the colors that are in my collections are just colors that I design with. I'm not thinking, oh, it would be great to have a blue collection, so let me make 1,000 blue pieces. I just work with the colors and the different supplies that I love, that I always work with, and they lend themselves to a collection that looks like me. And it just happens that they're the colors that they are because that's my go-to.
Yeah, I get it. Well, the thing that I have noticed is that your designs really have a lot of tactile quality and a lot of dimension to them. Like, you can see there are layers there. What are some of the challenges and joys that you experience when you translate your artwork into fabric?
Well, some of the joys are knowing that digitally I don't have to hold myself back because they will be able to recreate. That being said, when there is as many layers as there are to my work, the lower layers, and my concern always is that those lower layers, which are is equally important to the ones that are on the top, can be seen and differentiated. And again, before my first collection, I was really conscious, well, maybe this one is just a little too detailed, or maybe there's just too many small little marks, because I was concerned that it would get lost. And the design, the pattern, the idea behind the fabric and the design would not show itself in the way that I want it. But really, truly, Free Spirit is impeccable at translating. So I quickly learned after the first collection that I can be as detailed, as minuscule as I want, and they're going to capture it. A lot of my work, as I said earlier, is small. So one of my initial concerns was, if I'm working on a 4-inch by 4-inch piece, how is that going to look on fabric? What's the repeat going to be? All those questions. But honestly, I don't know, there's almost only joy, because somehow Free Spirit has been able to translate what I have created as art into fabric that just absolutely nails it. It's amazing to me.
That really is amazing and really impressive too. So we first discovered you when you released Storyboard, which was your first collection for Free Spirit. And we've just
Right.
finished making quite a few models using your latest line called Live Out Loud. So I'm wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about your inspiration for each of those lines, and then I'll take a minute to show some of the models that we made. I have a couple of them made with Storyboard, and then the rest are all Live Out Loud. So I'll
Okay.
let you tell us that.
Be happy to. Storyboard, the name, which came from the collection but also guided the collection, was about the notion of a storyboard. So if you think about a storyboard, say for a movie, they're just little capsule images that take you through the story of the film from beginning to middle to end. And that's really what I wanted to capture here. I wanted to capture this notion that, first off, I am telling a story with these fabrics. Storyboard consisted of 12 designs. So the notion was that each of these designs told a little bit of a story, say a chapter, of the bigger picture of what I wanted to share. So what I was doing was, in my first go-around, was basically telling my story. But the second half of that notion was that I wanted anyone who bought my fabric to use that as a supply to be able to tell their story. This is really about jumping right into kind of the core of who I am as an artist, which is that art, making art in any form, creating anything, is telling your story. It's telling something about yourself. So I leaned into artwork that I made, new artwork that I created for this. But the notion was there was going to be a lot of text, a lot of design work, and a lot of things that were hidden in there. You can't always take the psychologist out of the psychologist, even if the psychologist is not working. I know that who we are as people, the surface that everyone sees, the surface is only part of it. There's a lot that goes on within and underneath. And that's a lot of what I tried to capture in my artwork, but also in Storyboard. That when you look really, really closely, you're going to see some hidden words, some things that might not catch your eye at first, all of which are very, very important. So this was literally about telling my story and then having you guys who used it be able to tell yours as well. My work is always abstract, and I wanted to capture that in this collection so that you could make it anything you want it to be. And this is Stitch. This is me hanging out here. Those of you with an eagle eye will notice that the inspiration wall behind me is completely different because I take that and change that every December and redo it in its entirety in January. So this is from last year, and that little guy is Stitch. Stitch was made by Keisha Deveni, one of my good friends and a wonderful artist. And this is not a full size, but this was like a pretty close to full size mascot made with Storyboard. And Keisha was telling her story using the fabric.
That is really awesome. I love seeing that. And I have to say that working with your fabric when we first got it was such a treat because just as you say, there are so many little hidden details in there and so many little things to see and little words and affirmations that pop up here and there that just made it a whole lot of fun. Made me really pay attention as I was cutting to try and get things to fall out where I wanted them. And you'll see that a little bit more in the ones that we made with Live Out Loud. But this is a bag that we made using our courtside pattern. And we had designed this at the request of people who play pickleball or tennis because they wanted something that they could carry their rackets in. So we made a pocket on the front that zips up and your rackets will fit in there. I knew that I would probably never carry pickleball rackets or tennis rackets, either one. And we really wanted the bag to appeal to others as well. So when we designed it, we made it into kind of a backpack that would work for lots of uses. You go down, Glo. So this has really become my favorite bag for travel. It carries everything I need. I can put my laptop. It's got on the inside, so it's got a nice deep pocket on this side where you can put a bottle of water. And then on the inside, I've got this stuffed so it stands up, but there's a full pocket on the back and bellowed pockets. I can put my water bottle in there. It doesn't fall over. and it's got nice straps on the back so you can carry it on your back as a backpack when it gets heavy. We really had fun using these two fabrics in combination, the one that had a whole lot of collage kind of work on it, and then more of a textural design for the pockets. And then we just put in a black coordinate to do for the handles and straps. But this of all the courtside bags that we made is one of my very favorites. I just love the colors and all the texture in this one. Another bag that we made using, let me set this back here real quick. Another set that we made using Storyboard is our double zip gear bag set. And so this pattern includes instructions for DOP style bags in 3 sizes. Each one of them has a zippered top that opens really wide, so it's really easy to access the interior. This is a really popular pattern for people who are making gifts for guys because it's really easy for that, and it's kind of a more masculine shape. That's another thing that I really love about your fabric is I think it really translates well into projects for men. Sometimes it's hard to find bag fabrics that aren't flowery or things like that, and something that the guys will like is really fun. So the big one of this is perfect for putting shoes in. The medium one is good for all your toiletries, or if you're a sewist, it's great for putting your big cones of thread in. And then the little one is just great for small weekend trips. So that is called double zip gear bag. And this fabric, I loved it. Almost tells a little story on here mixed in with everything else. So just lots of fun to examine the fabric and see all the different textures and layers on them. Put that back and clear the table. So today we are debuting some brand new models that just came in a couple days ago from my model maker. So those are made with Live Out Loud. And as Seth said, this fabric is hitting stores this week. I think you said it was starting to ship last week. So Seth, can you tell us a little bit about your inspiration for Live Out Loud?
Sure. I just want to take 1 second to say thank you for showing those bags. Every designer will tell you that it is an endless thrill to see what people do with your fabric. I am always amazed by what you create and your patterns and the choices of fabric. So just so exciting to see. So thank you. Thank you a million times. In terms of Live Out Loud, there was a goal for Live Out Loud to create something that was 100% me, because that's all I'm ever going to create, and that was consistent enough with the first release, Storyboard, that you could actually use some of the designs with Storyboard, but that was different enough so that people didn't feel like, oh, I already have that. And we leaned into, in order to do that, a little bit of a brighter palette. Now it's funny, I am very muted in the work that I do. So for me, Live Out Loud is bright. Sometimes when I put it next to some other artists, it doesn't look so bright, but for me, it's bright. And it was really important to capture that side of me because the collection is called Live Out Loud. And the whole notion behind the collection is that it is about being you authentically. It's about not apologizing for who you are, owning who you are, knowing your voice, being comfortable with it, putting it out there, being content, happy, and excited just to be you. You know, shout you from the rooftops. And it does vary from the first collection, which tends to be a little bit more earthy and organic. The 2 images you just saw, this is Summer Splash. The first image, which is the art piece, was something that I created using mostly paint and ink. There's not much else in here. There's some pencil, but no collage or paper. And the whole notion was to create something that, again, almost looks like a skyscraper, like the windows of a building and a building. And if you, I don't know, can you flip back and forth between the 2 images? You can see how close the design is from the original collage to the fabric. And I chose this to show in part because sometimes the fabric is literally translated directly from the original art, and there's really not much change. And that's Summer Splash. And I think that this includes not all, but a lot of the tones that are in the rest of the collection. So the different patterns work really, really well together.
That's awesome.
There's a second one that I chose to show because I wanted to share something different with you. So this is not a finished piece of art on a piece of wood like the last one. This was just made on a piece of watercolor paper. It was made specifically for the collection, and it's made with inks and nothing else. It's just spray inks, and that's the pattern. So here's an example where we have the original art, and it's quite true to the original art, but the major change that was made is that the scale was changed. So the patterns that you see that are captured from that piece to the fabric were just significantly reduced. But the art itself, the colors, everything was kept consistent. And part of that was I had a better idea of what I really wanted to create that could work for quilters, people who are using patterns for other items, and mixed media. I learned a lot from the first collection to the second collection. So a lot of the art could stay true to what it was. There's a next one, which is called Whirl. That's Whirl. Again, this is one you can see at the very bottom of that, all the jagged edges. This was just made in my sketchbook, pulled out. This was actually made with a stencil. And this is a piece that I thought, for me, represents a little bit like a blender. A little less is more, because when you're more is more and use as many layers I do, it's hard to find something where the eye is going to rest. But I chose this one to show you and then compare with the fabric, because the big change here was just upping the contrast. So the designs are the same, scale's a little bit different, but mainly we just up the contrast so that you see it's a little bit brighter in blue, it's a little bit darker, so that there is a better pattern to use for whatever you're going to use it for. Again, quilting or mixed media. The last one I picked to show you is the other way we've designed. Again, you see the perforations at the top. This was just made, pulled out of my sketchbook. And you see here, there's a little bit of a gradation from the bottom, maybe 2/3 and the top third. So this is an example where pattern stayed the same, but when you look at the art, when you look at the fabric, the color was completely shifted. So we decided to go with some different colorations to make the design work with the collection. And this is also the same pattern. Again, a very different color. This one is called minor chord. The greenish one was called major chord. So not only did the colors change, but you'll notice that the scale in this changed too. I didn't want to repeat the exact same pattern over and over again. I wanted to use this, but I definitely wanted not only color, but also the scale to change, just for that variety and variability. And these pick up colors that are in a lot of the other more busy patterns. You'll notice that the four I showed you had no text in them. So this second collection, Live Out Loud, also was less heavy on text, but there's still a ton of text that's very important for me in many of the patterns. There are 15 rather than 12 designs in this collection.
Yeah, and I really like the text too. I'm a great word person. Anybody who makes my patterns knows that I love words, but words on fabric just add a whole new dimension on it. And actually we found the words, kind of helped us decide what to make out of some of them too. This is our pattern called Travel Essentials, and we used your fabric in this line called Beauty Within. To make that. This is designed to carry makeup and toiletries and things. And I just thought that the words that went with this, so it says beautiful, brave, together. And this one has like just different colors. This is that one that you showed there at the end, the minor. I think this is the minor cord that we used. And
Minor
just as you
cord.
said, it works perfectly for straps and handles and bindings, things where you want your eye to kind of rest and make a border around it. And then on the inside, we were able to feature the words and the designs on the inside of that. This is a great bag when you travel for carrying your makeup and toiletries. There's a nice deep pocket down at the bottom that's perfect for like a hair dryer, a hairbrush, makeup, or bottles, hairspray, things like that. Larger items can fit in there. And then the pattern also includes a curling iron sleeve or a flat iron sleeve. We put a hot brush in here, hot tool sleeve it's called. And again, on this one, we use the lining side out for part of it, and then the black with the colored for the main part of the bag, and that gives just some real fun interest to that. So that's a fun project to make for gifts for men or women. I think anybody could enjoy using a bag like this. The other
Annie,
one
I
that
just have
we...
to
Go ahead.
just have to interrupt to say, as soon as I saw you open that,
Uh-huh.
100% I want that for my art supplies. There are so many
Exactly.
pockets, and I don't have much hair, so I don't need the hair curler, but I would love to put my the heat tool in that slot.
Slot?
So yes, I am really feeling that.
You're also going to like this one, I think. So this is another one that I think is perfect for carrying your art supplies. So this is called In Control. It's a little sister to a larger one called Catch-All Caddy, but we thought this would be perfect for an artist. So this fabric says all the colors. I think that's the only text that's on there. But again, it's a different scale and a different background than that one, but all the different colors. And we thought it was just perfect for carrying pens, paint brushes, your watercolor paints. This is a little mixed media art kit all ready to go. So we need to add some stamps and things like that in here. One nice thing about this pattern is that rather than pockets on the inside, it has what are called bellowed dividers that can fall flat. They can go against the back of the bag if you need the space inside, but they expand. So if you've got lots of pens and things like that, you can put them in a cup and set them in there, and they're not going to fall over when you carry this from room to room. This would also be perfect for sewing supplies, bathroom needs. It's a handy little organizer that I think works in any room of your house. You could set it on the living room, coffee table to put your remote controls, your reading glasses, all those types of things. So many fun ways to use this. And it's got pockets all the way around, handles for carrying it. It's just a really handy little project. The next one we made is our Got Your Back backpack. And this fabric says Dream Big. So we fussy cut that to be right here on the flap that goes on the front pocket. And then we didn't pay too much attention to where else it fell out and whether it was right side up or upside down. It goes both ways. So it went all the way around. But this is just a handy backpack for kids who are in school, or if you're traveling. The front pocket opens up and you've got pockets inside to put credit cards or room keys in. We really enjoyed this little fabric. We used it on a lot of things, and it's just got all kinds of text across here, like without a doubt, first things first, present, future, out of the box, past, present, future, all kinds of things to think about. And then on the inside, it's got a full mesh pocket on one side and then a fabric slip pocket on the other side. So the fabrics that you showed earlier, we used one of them for the pocket there, another for the lining, and it just all went together really, really well. That was a fun one to work with. The next one we made is our Get Out of Town travel bag. So this is a perfect little duffel for weekend trips, or I think this is a perfect one to make for kids, for sleepovers, if you're just going for a short trip. Again, we use the minor cord for the handles and straps, and then mixed it with this fabric that says moments on it. So perfect for moments of travel and places that you want to go. It's got a slip pocket on the back, a combination slip and zippered pocket on the front, pockets on each end, handles for carrying it, and then also a carrying strap with a pad so you can, you know, if you're running through the airport, you can hook it over your body, crossbody, and carry it. And then that one has a big brother that is called Travel Duffel, and we used the blue that you showed earlier for the handles and straps on it. And then this one says, write your own story. And it's got lots and lots of layers on there, different text, all kinds of different colors. This was probably my favorite one in the line. I really love this color scheme and this. So this is just like Get Out of Town, but bigger. So it's got room for more pockets on the outside, and then on the back, because it's wider, we could also add a little trolley sleeve. So when you're traveling and you want to hook this on another suitcase, because trust me, you can put enough in here that this bag gets really heavy. It's a really great bag if you're going on a longer trip. And then the last one that we made is our ultimate travel bag, and we use the same fabric as we did for the backpack, but it looks different when it's in a bigger bag. So this is just our ultimate travel bag with, again, pockets all the way around. This is a really popular bag for people who like to travel. It fits under the seat in front of you, so long as you don't stuff it too terribly full, and easy to access. The zipper on this one goes partway down each side, so it's really easy to put things in and carry everything that you need for your trip. I'm going to put this back up here. But we had so terribly much fun. Oh, I missed one bag. I missed Payday. Thank you, Glow, for pointing that out. So this is just a small bag. If somebody's trying to look for a smaller project, this is wallets in 2 sizes. And again, that first fabric that you showed, we used on the outside of this one, and then we did the words on the inside. This is a fun little bag because you've got 2 zippered pockets. You've got a slip pocket here with credit card pockets underneath, and then a little secret compartment here where you can put your phone or smaller items, and then you can put it in your purse just like that, or you can attach a carrying strap and carry it as a separate bag over your shoulder. So that's the small version, and then we made a larger version using, again, the fabric that says Live Out Loud, and I think we used the same words on the inside, and we tried our darndest to fussy cut this, so we got Live Out Loud showing right at the top of the pocket here, and just had a whole lot of fun getting that out. I don't know if you can see this, but when you look at the inside of the pocket, we centered the Live Out Loud right there too. So we had a lot of fun making this set of bags, and these are great for putting into another bag or just carrying on their own. And again, that pattern is called Payday. But we really had fun deciding how to use all the different fabrics. I'm really pleased with how each of them turned out. We have several more cut out and ready to go. We just didn't get them done in time, so we'll have to maybe do a follow-up at some point. But we really appreciate, Seth, that you made such awesome fabrics for us to work with, and I'm curious to know what you hope people will experience when they use your fabrics in their projects.
Well, that's a good question, and you know, I think I'd want them to think about joy and to feel good, and also to think about possibilities. And I mean possibilities in 2 ways. One, the possibilities of using it to direct whatever you're going to create and to get some inspiration from it, and then use them your way. But also the possibilities from a bigger sort of internal perspective. All the words are positive words. They're all about, you know, living your life openly, freely, enjoying who you are, being real, being authentic. And the fabric, I hope, is just a little bit of encouragement that if you're hesitant to put yourself out there, if you're hesitant to be real, that this is a way to, in your art at least, to be authentic and be real, almost like a journal page come to life on whatever you're creating. But that joy, that passion, all of that I feel when I design it, I really hope that that's what comes across when you look at the collection and when you use it.
I love that. And I'm confident that there will be a definite sense of joy and possibility as people work with these. We had so much fun working with them and trying to decide all the ways to use them. So thank you so much. I have been asking a ton of questions. Let's see if our viewers have any questions for you. Oh, we've got quite a few here. So the first one is, are you a native New Yorker?
Well, I'm going to say no. I was actually born in Connecticut, but now I have lived in New York City for, I should have counted this before, I'm going to say 42 years or so. So it is definitely home at this point, but I wasn't born here.
Okay, but that's all right. 42 years in New York City, I'd say it's definitely home, and it doesn't sound like you're planning to leave anytime soon.
If I can help it, I'll be here forever.
That's awesome. All right, next question is, what type of paint do you use?
Well, I typically use acrylic paints, and I also use watercolor, but acrylic paint. And for me, I like my work matte. I'm not a big blingy, shiny guy, so I prefer that sort of matte surface. So the paint that I use, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say brands and things like that.
Sure.
But I use paint from a company called Paper Artsy. It happens that I have my own line of paint with them, so I kind of use my own paint. So it's the colors that I want, but Paper Artsy is a chalk-based acrylic, which means that it dries quickly and it dries flat and matte. Any pencil or pen will work over it, and I often work in a journal. And when it dries to the touch, the pages never stick together. So that's my go-to paint.
That's good advice and good to know. That's not something I would have thought of. So I can see that taking a class from you is going to be really, really helpful and educational. The next question is Storyboard still available?
Okay, so I've learned, unlike most of my other product lines, that for now my designs are one and done, which means that orders are placed, and once they're sold through, you can't get them. I am, I guess, happy to say that most of 9 out of the 12 designs have been sold through. So from FreeSpirit, you can only get 3 designs, but I guarantee if you look, you can find some stores that still carry them. And what I will say is I am really, really good with communicating because I love the collaborative nature. So if you are somewhere and you need to know where can I get Storyboard, if you message me or email me, again, go to SethApter.com, you can get my email or message. I will let you know where you can either buy it online or in person.
That's awesome. That would be really helpful. And I'm sure if you even went online and just searched for Storyboard, you'd find a lot of links to it available too. Last question is, does Seth or does FreeSpirit choose the fabric names in a collection? Because the names themselves are really an inspiration.
Well, that's a good question. And I am a person who loves names. I think it's so important. And for this collection, I would say 95% of them were chosen by me. Sometimes there's a little back and forth, but I pretty much said it, and they're so wonderful to work with. They know where I need help, maybe making some choices about how this collection would go together, and they know where they can allow me to kind of blossom as the designer that I am.
Right. Well, and a lot of the names, like this, I think says Live Out Loud. I'm pretty sure that's the name of this fabric. So some of those are based on what you, the text that you put them. There is one more question.
Correct.
Excuse me, I'm getting my cough back. The last question, unless Randy adds another one, is where can your paints be purchased?
Okay, so Paper Artsy is a company based in France. So if you're happen to be in France, you can order directly from them and have not much shipping, or in Europe, but they're available in multiple craft stores. I also sell them myself. So if you're in the US or Canada, you can go to, again, SethApter.com. Just click on the shop link and you will see the paints there, and you can purchase them through my shop.
That's great. Do you sell the stamps and pads and all that kind of stuff as well?
Yeah, my shop is a combination of all my products. So anything that I've designed, I sell. And then I have a sort of a curated select bit of what I think are extra special designs from other artists and designers as well.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, before we close, do you have any advice for maybe aspiring fabric designers or artists who are looking to break into the industry?
Sure. A couple things come to mind. First and foremost, be authentic, be yourself. This is not an industry where you decide, you know what, I want to make stamps, and right now trees are popular. I'm going to make 1,000 tree stamps. You need to kind of find your own lane and be true to yourself, and that's what the companies will appreciate and understand and respect and look to you for. You need to kind of always be educating yourself as an artist and taking risks and moving through, so that, for example, something that you may have focused on 5 years ago may not be anything that you even make now. That evolution, I think, is really good as a human, as an artist, and then also as a product designer. And then this one might not be so obvious, but I like to say you never know who's watching. So I think it's just really, really important, since we're all living in a world online, that you always place your best foot forward. You know, that you are who you are, but that you are who you are in a very kind of appropriate, respectful way. I don't know, that Free Spirit would have reached out to me if I perhaps presented myself differently online, because that's the only way they really knew me. So just, be aware. You want to always be your best self.
That is such good advice for so many things.
Mm.
When you look at things happening in the world and people who don't practice that, it's thank you for sharing that. I'm going to remember that. Put your best self forward. Really good.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much, Seth, for sharing your insights, your creativity with us today. I so enjoyed talking to you, and I hope I'll see you again soon. Are you planning to go to market at all in Houston this year?
I am not, sadly. I had something scheduled that conflicted with it. Excited to get back to H&H Americas next year. But unfortunately, market is not in the cards this year.
Okay. Well, I will look for you in Chicago at H&H. That will be really fun.
Excellent.
I would love to connect. And in the meantime, I'm going to check out some of your courses because I think those would be really fun to do. So thank
Thanks,
you
Annie.
again so much.
This was such a pleasure. I really appreciate talking to you and your people out there. Thank you all if you've tuned in, and certainly if you're here for this entire hour. So much appreciation, and thank you for sharing your designs with my fabric. That just is endlessly exciting.
You are so welcome. Wow. We had so much fun sewing with these, and we so appreciate you. So take care, and we'll see you again soon.
Be well, everybody.
Wow, that was such a fascinating conversation. I really enjoyed visiting with Seth, learning about his process, and I have to say it really makes me appreciate his fabrics even more. So be sure to check out his collections. Again, Live Out Loud should just be hitting stores now. They started shipping last week. You're sure to get endless inspiration for your own creative endeavors. And as always, ask for these fabrics, patterns, and supplies at your local quilt shop. These shops are such important parts of our sewing and quilting communities. It is up to all of us to keep them strong and vibrant. And remember, if they don't have them, they can certainly get them. They'll find the fabrics from FreeSpirit Fabrics or Jaftex. They'll find patterns and supplies from their favorite distributor or directly from us. And we're always happy to set up wholesale accounts for qualified quilting companies, so just ask them to contact us for more information. We also want to remind you that our friends at Shop Hop Inc. have organized statewide shop hops around the country. So the All Illinois and All Ohio shop hops started in August, and they're going to run all the way through the end of September. And then there are going to be 3 more statewide shop hops starting in September that will run through the end of October. So 100 shops across the state of Missouri are participating in the All Missouri Shop Hop. The All Carolinas Shop Hop includes over 60 stores in North and South Carolina and almost 100 stores in the states of Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Vermont have joined forces for the All New England Shop Hop. It is always so much fun to visit local quilt shops, as each one has its own personality and vibe, so mark your calendars and plan a road trip. And remember that many of these stores are going to be featuring ByAnnie trunk shows during their shop hops, so be sure to check in and stop in and check those out. Also, be sure to stay tuned at the end of this episode to see our video clips of local quilt shops that we featured on social media this week. Today we are featuring 2 great shops, Stitch and Snip in Garden Valley, Idaho, and Graceful Marilyn Quilt Shop in Marshall, Minnesota. So Stitch and Snip is celebrating their 20th anniversary this fall, and they have lots of fun activities planned. And Graceful Marilyn is a focal point of an exciting arts and crafts revival in the heart of Minnesota. I really enjoyed learning more about both of these shops, and I know you will too. And thank you again to everyone who joined us today. We are going to take next week off so that we can focus on add-on videos for new patterns that we're planning to release in Houston in October, so there won't be a live next Wednesday. But Teresa will be here on Wednesday, September 25th to kick off our annual Sew Pink initiative. We have got lots of fun stuff planned to help raise awareness of breast cancer, so join us then to learn more. And until then, happy stitching!
Hi, I'm Teresa Coates of ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Today we are visiting Stitch and Snip in Garden Valley, the 2024 local quilt shop winner for the state of Idaho. This fall, Stitch and Snip will mark a significant milestone, its 20th anniversary. From its humble beginnings to becoming a cherished destination store in Garden Valley, Idaho, the shop's journey has been nothing short of remarkable. Stitch and Snip's story began with Rena Hastings' dream of creating a quilt store where enthusiasts could gather, learn, and share their passion. Despite being located in a small community, the store quickly gained popularity, becoming a must-visit destination for quilters. In 2013, the shop expanded its reach with the launch of a new website, allowing it to connect with quilters beyond Garden Valley. June 2018 saw another exciting development as the store converted its old classroom into a dedicated space for batik fabrics. This year, Stitch and Snip celebrated the opening of an even larger classroom studio, complete with a lunchroom and warehouse. This new space accommodates more students and allows them to host a variety of workshops and retreats. Located in the scenic mountains of Garden Valley, Idaho, Stitch and Snip offers a quilting paradise experience. With a 2,500 square foot storefront and a 1,500 square foot classroom studio, the shop provides endless inspiration for quilters. It features the largest selection of batiks in Idaho, over 2,000 bolts, as well as a wide range of cotton fabrics, 100 to 8-inch backings, and unique quilt kits. The wide variety of fabrics draws customers from across the state and is something that many commented on in the local quilt shop contest. Marie told us not only do they have an amazing selection of batiks, wool, cotton fabrics, cuddle fabrics, and the most inspiring samples and kits, but the atmosphere is one of a kind. Whether you are shopping or taking classes, you are welcomed like a family. You feel loved and important. Making each customer feel like they and their sewing projects are valuable is something that was reiterated throughout. Margaret shared, "I had a UFO that I was ready to throw in the garbage because I was so frustrated with how it was coming together. I brought the quilt to Anna, and with her help, that quilt is now on its way to the quilter." Many of us can relate to that frustration, and having someone help you pass the hard part is wonderful and something that we love about quilt shops. When we asked Rena how the local quilt shop contest affected their store, she said, "It helps remind us why we keep sharing our love of quilting while making a safe and fun space to gather as friends. It's where we become family." The sense of community is crucial for Rena, and she continues to find ways to seed it. As a Judy Nehemiah certified shop, Stitch and Snip specializes in paper piecing, offering unique designs and vibrant colorways. The shop hosts workshops and retreats 5 to 6 times a year, providing a cozy space for quilters to immerse themselves in their craft. The classroom studio buzzes with activities from wool applique and paper piecing to traditional quilting techniques. The heart of Stitch and Snip is its dedicated staff who create a welcoming environment and ensure that every kit is crafted with care. Rena Hastings and Anna Gardner, the mother-daughter duo behind the shop, bring their passion and experience to every aspect of the business. Rena's 45 years of experience in quilting and teaching shine through in her commitment to inspiring others, while Anna's love for batiks and paper piecing adds a vibrant touch to the store's offerings. Located northeast of Boise, Garden Valley is a little paradise in the mountains, and if you're visiting in the summer, make sure you take advantage of the proximity to hiking, camping, fishing, and the hot springs. For those visiting in the winter, you'll get the chance to take a real-life sleigh ride, cut down your own Christmas tree, and feed local elk. The Pacific Northwest is lovely any time of the year, and I think a shop hop starting at Stitch and Snip in Garden Valley is a fabulous idea, and I can't wait to visit. If you're in Idaho, make sure to put them on the itinerary, and when you get there, tell them the folks at ByAnnie say hi. Don't forget you can find out more about them by visiting www.stitchandsnip.com. Until next time, happy stitching! Hi, I'm Teresa Coates of ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Today we are visiting Graceful, Marilyn Quilt Shop. They are the local quilt shop contest winners for the state of Minnesota. The shop, located in Madison on the southwestern border of Minnesota, is a dream come true for sisters Michelle Salfer and Heather Roca. Growing up on a farm, the two spent much of their time with their mother Marilyn, crafting, sewing, and making whenever they could find the time. Both girls developed a deep love of sewing and quilting that has stayed with them through to their adulthood. Decades later, they heard a rumor that the nearby local quilt shop owner was retiring, and they jumped at the opportunity to buy the shop and fulfill their childhood dreams by starting their very own quilt shop. So in October 2021, Graceful Marilyn Quilt Shop opened its doors. They named the shop for their mother and the characteristic that they felt most described their aesthetic. With more than 6,000 square feet of retail space, the shop is filled with fabrics, embroidery supplies, patterns, books, and dozens of quilt kits. Their love of making doesn't end with their own hobbies, and one thing that really sets their store apart is their maker's market. In addition to all of the sewing supplies, they have also created a space within their quilt shop to showcase the work of other local makers. You can find mittens made from upcycled sweaters, goat milk soaps, crocheted toys and blankets, and even dog bandanas handmade by Heather's daughter. Graceful Marilyn's Quilt Shop is very much a family affair. Besides sisters Heather and Michelle, you'll also find Heather's daughter, along with the store's namesake and mom, Marilyn, cousin Dawn, and even Heather's mother-in-law, Helen. Beyond family, they are further joined by Marissa, Leanne, and Lori to cover all of the age and craft demographics. You'll find the whole team busy restocking and adding new items on a daily basis, as well as teaching regular classes and hosting special events. Customers from the local quilt shop contest love their support for makers, including the newbies. Jackie shared with us, "I am a new quilter and they are willing to give advice when needed. They encouraged me to take a class there and now I'm hooked." It's a slippery slope, but one that we're happy you're on. Having support from the local quilt shop can be just the thing that someone needs to get past the hard part of learning a new skill and making new friends in the community. Despite being located in a town of less than 2,000 folks, their customers come from all over, including nearby North Dakota and South Dakota. With a weekly farmers market running through the fall and sports and arts events held at the Southwest Minnesota State University, there's plenty for you to do if you find yourself in the area. When you get there, tell them hi for the ByAnnie team and spend a little time checking out all of the making possibilities they offer. To learn more about Graceful Marilyn's Quilt Shop, you can visit them at gracefulmaryland.com. Until next time, happy stitching!